Andrew, you're here again with another church planning question, and today I want to talk to you about the idea of recruiting people for, I guess you could call them core groups or leadership teams. I guess it really doesn't matter what you name them, but it does matter to some degree how you go about getting these people. Mm-hmm. And every church planner I've met has always been a little bit like a desperate recruiter, so waiting for someone to actually come and join their team. They're keen to have people involved. What sort of things do you?
And if you're thinking about moving to the Central Coast, I know a good church you should come and be part of. Yeah,
mate. When you think about recruiting people, how sensitive are you to taking them out of one context, maybe even one ministry or church, and into another? How do you think it through?
Yeah. I'll give you the bottom principle philosophy for me. It's think with this. Every organisation has it's set up to achieve a task. And think a car. A car's set up to get me from A to B, but you've got to do another thing, maintain it, for it to achieve that task. Well, organisations like that. Every organisation is set up to achieve a task, and it's got to have a maintenance function where, because it's an organisation of people, I've got to make sure that people are working together and cared for and so on, so we can achieve this task. The thing about business, business is a profit. I'm seeking to make money. I just keep people together enough to make the thing happen. The thing with Christian ministry is that the task is the maintenance, or the maintenance is the task. That is, the task of Christian ministry is discipling, making disciples, which is what we do to maintain. The way we keep this organisation healthy is by making disciples. So the thing I'm after is a deep, matured disciple, and that's the very thing I'm doing to keep this community healthy and strong together. Now, one of the dangers for church planters is that we can think the task is establishing a core group to make this church happen, and lose sight that the task is actually make disciples. Now, why that's a problem is because in the early stages of recruiting to a core group, or recruiting as time goes on, and some of our planters never stop recruiting, but the danger is that I can short-circuit the real purpose in my pursuit of recruiting to a task, forgetting what the task actually is. And what I mean is I can recruit someone to be part of this core group to make this church go in a way that actually undermines the maturity of the person I'm recruiting. So the very act of recruiting itself needs to be a discipling function. So I need to, as I'm recruiting someone, the whole point of my recruiting primarily is about maturing that person, not getting someone to fit a hole in my core group.
Okay, so you're actually going to be trying to help them think through the process of maybe moving from one ministry to another. You're actually discipling them and maturing them in that decision-making process?
Everything I do is thinking of maturing. So, Mark, talking to you, I'm concerned. So when I talk to someone about coming and joining a church, my primary concern is getting this person to see the cause of the gospel, what matters most in life, how to understand their obligations pastorally and responsibilities as God's person in whatever context. So all of that mix is what I'm seeking to do, and the outcome of that is really secondary, whether they'll come and join the core group or not. And
that's a tough one, Andrew, because I can see a church planner actually putting a lot of effort into somebody, and you're asking them to be not terribly worried whether or not they actually come, but you want to see them grow first and foremost.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? But yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the person who came over some years ago, someone came to us from another church, and the church they came was a great Bible teaching church. Had a whole conversation with this person about what was going on in their life, that they would leave a Bible teaching church to come and join our church. And at the end of the conversation, I encouraged them to go back and so on and so forth. They came back to us, I don't know, a month later, just to say this. They said, look, that's the first time someone's actually cared about my spiritual walk. And I took great comfort from that really what we're about, even in the recruiting process. So I'm very sensitive to not just encouraging a person to leave another church and join me for this great cause I'm about, because that can end up using people and actually undermining the very maturity I need them to grow in to help this church grow. So what I'm concerned about is to say, no, you've got to take care for how you do what you do with your other church. You've got obligations there. You've got responsibilities to the pastoral team there. You need to actually make sure you fulfil all those appropriately and properly, recognising the needs of the cause of the gospel and where you can be best serving that cause. So it is the maturity of the person that's tantamount, because I'm actually concerned about the cause of the gospel.
Okay, let's talk about the...
Believe me, it's true.
No, I'm believing you, but let's talk about the maturity of the church planner and maybe the other ministers involved. What's the practical way of moving forward to say, I want to care for this other church, but also see that I might have some people who'd be ready to leave. How would you go about talking? Would you in fact talk to the minister of the other church, or would you? How do you handle that juncture?
There's people do this differently. I haven't tended to talk to the minister of the other church. I have on occasion, and depending on the level of the person I'm seeking to engage a conversation with, I'll go to the minister and say, look, how do you feel about me having this conversation? So I will be doing that. But
like if someone, for example, I just want to, like you're talking, if their treasurer is involved and is talking about moving or something like that, you want to let them at least know this conversation is going on and ask them how they felt about that.
Yeah. But doing that aware that they don't own the person, the person is not owned by them. We've got to treat people as mature adults who are accountable to God, but recognise the matrix of obligational relationships they are in. So typically what I've done is talk to, in the early years, talk to people, look, we're starting a new church. We'd love to have you come and be part of it, but clearly you're in a ministry that's also important and significant and has its place. How can we manage this, and can you think through these obligations? Make sure you talk to the pastor and inform them of what you're thinking about, to give them an opportunity to talk with you, and so on and so forth. And if you do choose to leave, we want you to know that we expect you will have had a proper leaving process with where you're at. So all of that's part of the mix appropriately. Yeah.
And I guess that the last question I might throw you away on this topic is that there's the difficulty of, I guess this maturing process would also identify people who might be coming for the wrong reasons, or might even be coming to escape.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's two problems. There's one that the church planter is particularly interested in. If you're getting someone who's coming to escape to join your core group, it's death. It'd make it very hard. But more importantly is if someone's coming to escape, then you're not helping them. Or you've got to work out, is receiving them going to help their maturing or hinder? And that's when there's pastoral wisdom applied there. There's some contexts where we've had people leave other ministries to join us, and it's clear that there's a whole lot of immaturity's gone on and so on. But on occasion we've made the judgment, one of two things, that we can't tell them what they can and can't do. We can advise and so on and so forth, and if they still choose to come. But secondly, we've concluded that because of various circumstances, there will be a context for maturing that actually is in place with them joining us that they might not otherwise have. These things aren't simple and straightforward. So
you're not so much about filling a roster of job applications that need to be ticked, but more how many mature people are going to be continuing to mature in my church.
Absolutely, and all the time. Yeah.
Mate, that's brilliant. Thanks very much for that. I'm sure you've actually just torpedoed a bunch of recruiting strategies for church planners.
Probably not.
Yeah. No. I'm sure they're thinking it through too. Yeah. And thanks for helping us think it through. Yep. We're going to put an email address up on the screen now, so if anybody wants to actually send up a follow-up question or something like that, they'll be welcome to do so. And in the meantime, I look forward to the next time.
Yeah, good.
See you.